shared insights and policy perspectives certainly aims at realizing an evergreen revolution across India. During this session, there will be 2 book release events as well, and that will happen at the start of the session. So I now request Dr. Gayatri Venkataraman from MSSRF to take the session forward, please.
So very good morning to you all. The moderator for this session, Sri Ramesh Chand. I request Mr. Parasuraman to please present a mashal in honor of the event. I now request Dr. Oliver to present a shawl to Tirutangam Arasu, Minister for Finance and Environment and Climate Change, Government of Tamil Nadu. I now request Dr. Parasuraman to present a shawl to Honorable Dattatri Vithoba Bharne, Minister of Agriculture, Government of Maharashtra. I now request Dr. Oliver to present a shawl to Mr. Toko Tatung, Minister of the Legislative Assembly, Government of Arunachal Pradesh. I request Dr. Parasuraman to present a shawl to Dr. Kent Medozi, Secretary, International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources. I request Dr. Oliver to present a shawl to Professor Ademola A. Ademoles, Senior Special Advisor on Agricultural Innovation, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Nigeria, and the SWAS awardee for this occasion. And finally, I request Dr. Parasuraman to present a shawl to Srinivasa Rao, Director IARA, and a very important collaborator and contributor to this event. Thank you, sir. So we'll start this event with a book announcement. We are delighted to release 2 books in honor of Professor M.S. Swaminathan. We humbly request Mr. Tangam Arasu, Minister of Finance and Environment and Climate Change, Government of Tamil Nadu, to release the book titled A Century of Science and Service, M.S. Swaminathan at 100, Personal Reflections, Professional Legacies, and Public Memory. We request Professor Ramesh Chand to receive the first copy of the book. We request all dignitaries on the dais to please receive a copy of the book. Can we have another for the photograph, please? Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. So, may I now invite Mr. Vithoba Bharne, Minister of Agriculture, Government of Maharashtra, to release the book In Search of Biohappiness, Biodiversity and Food, Health and Livelihood Security. And we would humbly like to request Mr. Toko Tatung, Member of Legislative Assembly, Arunachal Pradesh, to receive a first copy of the book. Sir, can you please give a copy to you? Yeah, thank you very much. Yes. So, yes. So So I now request Professor Ramesh Chan to take over the proceedings for the remaining session. Yes. Thank you.
Good morning to all fellow panelists. I'm happy to share with you that we have Honorable Minister for Finance and Environment from Government of Tamil Nadu in this panel. We also have Honorable Minister of Agriculture from state of Maharashtra who will share his perspective on legacy of Professor M.S. Swaminathan with all of us. And we also have a member of Legislative Assembly from Arunachal Pradesh, Mr. Toko Tatu, representing Shri Pema Khanduji, Honorable Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh. So these are the three panelists from India. And I'm happy that we also have people to represent international perspective. As you all know that Dr. Swaminathan, his work and his achievements were not restricted only to India. He was a global leader, he was a global figure, and the ideas which he gave, they echoed throughout the world. So we also have with us Professor Adi Mullah, Senior Special Advisor on Agriculture Innovation, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Nigeria. And we also have Dr. Tent Nanjoji, Secretary, International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources, who will also provide their insights into Dr. Swaminathan's international influence. So before we start, before I invite panelists to share their reflections, I think it is in order for me to briefly set the context for this special session, which is nicely titled as Achieving an Evergreen Revolution, Vision from Leaders. We have heard our Prime Minister in the first session. He has beautifully and very ably summarized how Dr. Swaminathan transformed from a scientist in IRI to ground-level functionaries running Swaminathan Foundation and working with change in livelihood, improvement in livelihood of people. So I will also share some of my thoughts on achievements and life of Dr. Swaminathan on similar lines. Friends, most of us know Dr. M.S. Swaminathan as a great scientist who developed high-yielding varieties of wheat, which laid the foundation for green revolution in India. And we also recognize him as a great development practitioner who was instrumental in spread of high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice across the country in the first phase of green revolution. These two achievements have far-reaching effect on Indian agriculture, India's food self-sufficiency, socio-economic uplift of farmers, and transformation of rural economy in India. This description of Professor Swaminathan as a distinguished scientist and the father of green revolution in India captures only a fraction of his profound legacy. Having closely followed his work and writing over the years, I have come to regard him as a true visionary, someone who consistently thought far ahead of his time. Following his pioneering contribution in developing high-yielding wheat varieties at IRI and driving green revolution, Professor Swaminathan was among the first to foresee the long-term ecological consequences of such a rapid agricultural intensification. As early as the 1980s, he drew attention to the second and third generation problem of green revolution, depleting water table, biodiversity loss, natural source degradation, and ecological degradation. He proposed measuring national progress not only through gross national product, but also through gross nature's product, a concept reflecting the health of our natural capital and our planet. It was from this perspective that he called for transforming the green revolution into an evergreen revolution, rooted in eco-technology to ensure productivity without environmental compromises. Dr. Swaminathan further expanded the agricultural discourse by incorporating crucial dimensions such as nutrition and health, the livelihood of marginalized communities, gender equity, and environmental sustainability. These themes were central to the work of M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation, which he established in city of Chennai in Tamil Nadu. Dr. Swaminathan was deeply convinced that technology alone could not transform Indian agriculture to improve income of farmers. Therefore, he emphasized policy reform, price policy, institutional support, and infrastructure development, which he felt were equally vital. Based on my empirical research and analysis conducted at NITI Ayog in last couple of years, I can affirm that many of the visionary ideas of Dr. Swaminathan have been harnessed and come to fruition over the past decade. These include more remunerative minimum support price for farmers with adoption of new formula suggested by him, millet mission, pulses mission, natural farming, bio-input promotion, and many initiatives for economic empowerment of women. As a result, India achieved a remarkable 4.5% annual growth rate in agriculture during last 10 years between 2015 and 2024. I feel happy to share that this growth rate is highest for any 10-year period in the nation's history and also highest globally among countries with more than 1% share in the world's agriculture GDP. Till 3 years back, China was ahead of us when we take 10 years growth, but 2 years back, we surpassed China by a considerable margin to emerge as highest to emerge as a country with highest growth rate in the world. I once again want to say that I feel honored to be joined by distinguished panelists today. So we will start with reflections from Honorable Minister on Finance and Environment from the state of Tamil Nadu. As all of you will be knowing that Tamil Nadu was front runner in the Green Revolution by adoption of high-yielding varieties of paddy. Deltaic region of South India, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, like Punjab, Haryana, Western UP in wheat, so Tamil Nadu, Andhra, so they were the pioneer, they were the front runner in the adoption of high-yielding varieties of rice. And I feel happy to share that this change, which is brought by high-yielding varieties of different crops, you find a continuity in the state of Tamil Nadu and Andhra in the sense that in these two states, recently, they are going ahead with maize revolution. These two states, I just checked the numbers, the yield of maize is more than 7 tons per hectare. Particularly in Tamil Nadu, that in all the 3 seasons they take maize yield which is more than 7 tons per hectare. with just 4% area of the country, this state is contributing more than 9% of maize production. And also, Professor Swaminathan, based on his wisdom, chose Tamil Nadu as his Karam Bhumi to translate lot of knowledge, capital that he has. He worked with fishermen, he worked with marginalized communities, he worked on revival of traditional crop, traditional seed, etc. I mean, even if I keep speaking for hours and days, I can't fully describe his contributions. So I think we have a person on the ground, from the ground. So let us hear from horse mouth how in the state of Tamil Nadu they look at legacy of Swaminathan. So I invite Thiru Thangam Thenarasu, Minister of Finance and Environment, Tamil Nadu. Please. Up to you.
Respected moderator of this session, member of Niti Aayog, Ministerial, honorable ministers of various Indian states, the ministers from foreign countries, dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, respected Dr. Swaminathan, and members of MSS and my colleagues. Vanakkam. Of course, it is a great honor for me, and it is a privilege too, to be part of this historic occasion, commemorating the 100th birth anniversary of Bharat Ratna Professor M.S. Swaminathan. Professor Swaminathan, a visionary whose life work completely transformed India's food landscape and gave us the blueprints for the food and nutrition security, rooted in equality and sustainability. I would like to quote a poem from the much celebrated Tamil poet, Kambar, one of his classics, and as rightly pointed out by Mr. Ramesh, how Tamil Nadu has been very successful in cultivating rice, how it still sustains to be the rose bowl of the country. Kambar beautifully says, I'll quote in Tamil, Tiruvadayum, Tiral Adayum, Seradayum, Serivadayum, Uruvadayum, Uyarvadayum, Ulagalam, Uyarndongum, Karu Adayum, Kodayala, Anbayayir, Senjali, Karuvadayir, Pudalakir, Kaliyadayir, Matade என்று தமிழில் சொன்னார். I'll just now make the translation for this. The farmer who practices the noble profession of agriculture is similar to Kalpa Vriksha. When cultivating red rice in the cool fields, it becomes fertile, brings prosperity, attains victory, then it will earn fame, become strong and achieve greatness. All living beings in the world will flourish and they will never face a state of scarcity on this earth. And this is the message the great poet Kambar conveyed some, I would say, 1,000 years back. That spirit exactly defines Professor Swaminathan's legacy and the mission of this conference, titled Realizing an Evergreen Revolution. Professor Swaminathan, as we all know, he believed that Science must serve the poorest, protect the planet, and empower the most vulnerable, especially smallholder farmers and rural women. His advocacy for farmers' rights, his role in shaping India's legislation for the protection of plant varieties and farmers' rights, and his work in community green and seed banks to ensure food security shows how deeply he understood the relationship between science and society. He once said, "For every problem, there is a solution. For every problem, there is a solution. There is nothing that cannot be achieved, provided there is nothing that cannot be achieved, provided you work for it." I reiterate, provided you work for it. That is the beautiful saying of Professor Swaminathan. And that philosophy still continues to guide not only the state of Tamil Nadu, but I am very confident that it still continues to guide every one of us who are assembled over here. And it is also pertinent on my part to recall the association of Professor Swaminathan with our late beloved leader, former Chief Minister Kalaignar and Tamil Nadu. In 1989, it was our beloved leader Kalaignar who allotted a piece of land in Chennai to help Mr. Swaminathan to establish this famed MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, MSFRF. And I feel proud, and that was a pioneering step initiated by the state government of Tamil Nadu as late as in the late 80s. And that has now become not a mere institution, and I would now say, as I already recalled from the Compass poem, as I have already recalled, I must say it is not only just an institution, that is the kalpa vriksha of the entire country, I must admit and say this. Professor Swaminathan deeply believed that ending hunger was an important and as producing food. It's not only producing food, but we should also end the hunger. That is more important. That belief led to the hunger-free area program and Tamil Nadu's biotechnology policy. I was a legislator in the State Assembly then when this biotechnology policy was formed, and Professor Swaminathan was the backbone of forming that particular policy, and that particular policy was drafted by a high-level committee chaired by none other than Professor Swaminathan. Under Dr. Kalaignar's vision, Tamil Nadu successfully became the home of India's first women's biotechnology park, and this park stands a testimony to not only Dr. Kalaignar's destination, but also Mr. Dr. Swaminathan's commitment in empowering women entrepreneurs in the field of biotechnology. And I must also add, now under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, the government of Tamil Nadu, the state of Tamil Nadu, continues to walk the path shown by Professor Swaminathan towards the climate resilient, nutrition secure, and farmer-friendly future. And we are now ably supported on many fronts by Professor Dr. Swaminathan, be it health or on climate changes or agriculture, on many fields. Really, she is of great help to the state of Tamil Nadu, and I take this opportunity to thank on my behalf, on behalf of the government of Tamil Nadu, and on behalf of my Chief Minister for all her support. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to share some of our key initiatives from the government of Tamil Nadu. Because of our continued efforts, the grass cropped area has increased from 146.77 lakh acres in 2019-20 to 151 lakh acres in 23-24. the double crop area has grown to 33.6 lakh acres from 29.74 acres during the same period. We ranked first in ragi, second in maize, oilseeds, and sugarcane, and third in groundnut and minor millets productivity at the national level. Food grain production touched 346.38 lakh metric tons over the past 3 years, despite the facing natural calamities. Some of the flagship schemes anchoring our vision: the Kalangari All-Village Integrated Agricultural Development Program, by which 46,000 acres of fallow land it is being brought under cultivation, which would benefit around 50 lakh farmers. CM's Mannuir Kaatu Mannuir Kaapum scheme, which would promote the organic farming, soil health and residue-free food. Micro-irrigation and electrification, I must proudly say, 181,000 new electricity connections have been given, which would lead to an integrated area expanded to 94.68 lakh acres. The agri-credit, my colleague from Maharashtra was very eagerly asking how Tamil Nadu is doing on this front. I am very proud in saying that from 1.83 lakh crores in 2019 to 3.5 lakh crores in 23-24. This makes Tamil Nadu one of the leading states in agricultural credit disbursements. And there is another area by which we have also given the incentives and relief to farmers who are cultivating sugarcane and the paddy, and we are also taking care of the crop damages, and we are also providing assistance through crop insurance. The state government is also promoting youth in agriculture through startup subsidies and launching the Chief Minister's Farmer Service Centers to utilize their technical skills. Special schemes like the Hill Farmers Development Scheme, the Tamil Nadu Millet Mission, and the Nutrition Farming Mission to align with goals of the Evergreen Revolution. In order to honor Professor Swaminathan's contribution, the Agriculture College and Research Institute in Tanjavur has been named as Dr. M.S. Swaminathan Agricultural College and Research Institute as a fitting tribute to the departed scientists who have made a great green revolution possible throughout the country. So in conclusion, I must say that Dr. Swaminathan taught us the future of agriculture is not just about the needs, but about one, nutrition, two, dignity, then ecological balance, and not least, the justice. At this conference, let us rededicate ourselves to this vision to build our country, the great India, where farmers prosper, no child goes hungry, biodiversity thrives, and agriculture becomes a force for joy, biohappiness for all, as said by the great poet Mahakavi Bharatiyar, பயிற்சிக்கு சோரிட வேண்டும் இங்கு வாழும் மனிதருக்கெல்லாம் பயிற்சி பல கல்வி தந்து இந்த பார்வை உயர்த்திட வேண்டும். நன்றி, வணக்கம். தேங்க்யூ.
legacy of Swaminathan and some important achievement in agriculture sector with us.
उपस्थित सब भाई बहनों, प्रोफेसर एम एस स्वामीनाथन जी की जन्म शताब्दी पर आयोजित इस कार्यक्रम में जिन्होंने अभी आपको स्पीच दिया वो तमिलनाडु के फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर तीरोतंगम चिनारसु जी, नीति आयोग के रमेश चंद्र जी, श्रीनिवास राव जी, मिस्टर टोको, मिस्टर डॉक्टर केट, प्रोफेसर एडमोला, उपस्थित सभी स्वामीनाथन कुटुंब के सब परिवार के सब सदस्य, देश भर से पधारे कृषि वैज्ञानिक अधिकारी, सब स्टूडेंट और मेरे भाई बहनों, इस अवसर पर मैं आप सभी का महाराष्ट्र की स्टेट की तरफ से स्वागत करता हूं। आप सबको तो मालूम है कि पहला जो सेशन का कार्यक्रम हुआ, इसमें माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी साहब और कृषि मंत्री देश के शिवराज सिंह चौहान जी ने आप सबको मार्गदर्शन किया है। आज मुझे खुशी है कि मैं आज महाराष्ट्र राज्य का कृषि मंत्री दिल्ली के इस राष्ट्रीय मंच पर पहली बार उपस्थित हूं। ये मेरे लिए केवल सम्मान की बात नहीं, बल्कि महाराष्ट्र के लाखों किसानों की भावनाओं को आपके सामने रखने का गौरवपूर्ण अवसर भी आज है। भारत रत्न प्रोफेसर एम एस स्वामीनाथन जी की, जिन्होंने भारतीय कृषि की दिशा और बदल दी, भारत रत्न प्रोफेसर एम एस स्वामीनाथन ने न केवल एक महान वैज्ञानिक थे, बल्कि वे हर किसानों के मन में उम्मीद का नाम बन चुके हैं। जब देश में खाद्य का संकट था, तब उन्होंने अनाज उत्पादन को वैज्ञानिक तरीके से बढ़ाकर देश को आत्मनिर्भरता की और अग्रसर किया। हरित क्रांति का बीज उन्हीं के हाथों में बोया गया था, लेकिन उनका दृष्टिकोण उससे ही आगे था। वे कहते हैं, कृषि में सफलता केवल उत्पादन से नहीं, बल्कि किसान की गरिमा, पर्यावरण का संतुलन और सामाजिक न्याय की तय होती है। उनकी यह सोच आज भी हमारे लिए प्रेरणा है। महाराष्ट्र राज्य में हर प्रकार की खेती होती है। यहाँ बागवानी खेती भी है, तो दूसरी ओर सलाइन ट्रैक से और सूखा प्रभावित क्षेत्र भी है। लेकिन सबसे बड़ा गर्व हमें इस बात का है कि हमारे किसान हर परिस्थिति में संघर्ष करते हैं, सीखते हैं और आगे बढ़ते हैं। महाराष्ट्र सरकार का लक्ष्य यह है कि किसानों को बेहतर गुणवत्ता वाले बीज, खाद और कीटनाशक मिले, नकली और घटिया उत्पादनों पर सख्त कार्रवाई हो और इस किसान तकनीक और जानकारी सीधे पहुंचे। इसलिए महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने माय एग्री AI नीति लागू की है। प्रोफेसर स्वामीनाथन जी मानते थे कि विज्ञान तभी सफल होता है जब वो सीधे खेत तक पहुंचता है। इसलिए महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने अभी खेतों में भी डिजिटल तकनीक में मोबाइल ऐप और ऑन-फील्ड सेवाओं का विस्तार कर रही है, ताकि किसानों की उनकी भाषा में सही समय पर सही जानकारी मिले। हमारा लक्ष्य है समय पर सहायता, सही सलाह और सशक्त किसान। मैं इस मंच से केंद्र सरकार का आभार प्रकट करता हूं कि वह कृषि क्षेत्र को सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता दे रहे हैं। साथ ही मैं इस आग्रह करता हूं कि जो राज्य नवाचार और सुधार कर रहे हैं, उन्हें सहयोग और संसाधन मिले और हम मिलकर ऐसी कृषि नीति बनाए जो केवल कागजों पर में नहीं रहे, बल्कि खेत की मेहनत तक पहुंचे। मैं एक मंत्री के रूप में नहीं, बल्कि एक किसानों का एक बेटा के रूप में मैं यह कहना चाहता हूँ, हमारे लिए किसान केवल वोट नहीं, वो हमारी प्रेरणा है, जिम्मेदारी और आत्मा है। महाराष्ट्र का संकल्प है हर योजना का लाभ सीधे किसानों को मिले, हर तकनीक व्यावहारिक रूप से उपयोगी हो और हर निर्णय में किसानों की गरिमा और सुरक्षा का ध्यान रखा जाए। आज का यह आयोजन केवल एक स्मरण नहीं, यह एक नई क्रांति की शुरुआत है। इस अवसर पर प्रोफेसर स्वामीनाथन जी ने जो सोच की नीतियां का धरातल तक उतरने का हम सब मिलकर एक ऐसा भारत बना सकते हैं जहां किसान सम्मान से जिए, जहां कृषि पर्यावरण से अनुकूल हो और जहां किसान का बेटा भी गर्व से कहे मैं किसान बनना चाहता हूं। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र, जय किसान।
जी आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। विशेष तौर पर आपने जो कंक्लूड किया, ये जो आयोजन है ये एक स्मरण नहीं, ये नई क्रांति की शुरुआत है। ये बहुत बड़ा मैसेज दिया है इन्होंने अपनी स्पीच में। आई एम श्योर एमएस स्वामीनाथन फाउंडेशन इस बात पे गंभीरता से विचार करेगी कि इस सुवर्ण अवसर को नई क्रांति की शुरुआत में हम कैसे बढ़ें। अब मैं आमंत्रित Next, I would like to invite Mr. Prof. He is a member of Legislative Assembly in Government of Arunachal Pradesh. MS Swaminathan Foundation is doing a lot of work in Northeast region, and there are many reasons behind it. But I see that the most important reason is rich biodiversity in Northeast. Northeast is one of the hotspots for biodiversity, globally considered one of the, I think, 7 hotspots in biodiversity in the world. And within Northeast, a lot of agriculture transformation is happening in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. I visit the state of Arunachal Pradesh almost every year, and every time I go, I just look at old things, they just vanish. They have airport, they have wonderful roads, and in agriculture they are doing a lot of diversification. Earlier, India was not able to produce good kiwis, but now you find most of the export of kiwis has been replaced by the kiwi produced in Arunachal Pradesh. And they not only sell kiwi as a fresh fruit, even they make wine and all other kind of good products from kiwi. So, Professor, the floor is yours. Please share your reflection.
Thank you so much. It is indeed an honor and a responsibility to stand before you today, commemorating a man, a legacy that he has left behind, which has taken India to different heights. Before I get on, I would like to read a message from our Chief Minister, Sri Pema Khandeji, who could come, but he wanted me to share this message. So I would like to read it out, with the permission, of course. Dear Dr. Soumyaji, thank you so much for your kind invitation to attend the centenary celebration of Bharat Ratna, Professor MS Swaminathan, and to participate in the Ministerial Roundtable of August 7, 2025. It would have been an honor to be a part of this meaningful event, commemorating the life and legacy of a visionary scientist whose contributions transformed Indian agriculture and uplifted countless rural lives. Professor Swaminathan's vision of sustainable, inclusive, and equitable development resonate deeply with efforts in Arunachal Pradesh. Unfortunately, due to pressing commitment in the state, I will not be able to join the event in person. However, I convey my best wishes for the success of conference and hope that deliberation will pave the way for a stronger national agenda on sustainable agriculture and biohappiness. I look forward to future opportunities for engagement and collaboration. With warm regards, yours sincerely, Pema Khandeji. Well, I would say, Arun Kiran Sheesh Bhushan, Tan Chin Ki Dhara, Prabhat Suraj Chumbit Desh, Arunachal Hamara, Arunachal Hamara. This is where I am from. I represent the people who lives with nature, who has a long relationship and would like to continue the relationship. I would like to thank the chair, the moderator, Ramesh Chandji, the member of NITI Aayog, the co-panelists here, esteemed scientists, visionaries, policy makers, friends from civil society and media, and distinguished guests from across the world, and the winner of the first Swaminathan Foundation Israel Award for Sustainable Agriculture and Biodiversity, the Nigerian friend I would say, I just met him today. Well, I would say it's an extraordinary gathering committed to the principle of biohappiness, a word, a philosophy, and a dream that was planted in our mind by the legendary Bharat Ratna, Professor M.S. Swaminathan. Well, I've read through him, I've followed him. When I understood him, I found two things. He said, true happiness emerges not from wealth or consumption, but from living in harmony with the biological world, with our land, water, forest, seeds, and people. It is an idea that resonates deeply with us in Arunachal Pradesh, one of the last ecological frontier of India, nestled between the two biodiversity of Himalayas and Indo-Burma, rich, home to rich indigenous wisdom and biodiversity. I heard him in one of the interviews. He said that my focus is on two, particularly sections. One, he said, the small farmers, and other, he said, women. Small farmers and marginalized farmers in the country. I think it's a way to recollect and reflect upon their condition in the country. They contribute a lot. Their ownership of the net crop area could be around 46%, but they represent more than 86% of our farmers in the country. We have to look back and think about these people, because late Professor M.S. Swaminathan, Bharat Ratna, he talked about it. He said that if we have to bring revolution, if we have to bring change, we have to start from there. I think it's time to reflect on them, on his 100 years of birthday celebration. We need to think how to get to them. He talked about women folks. They represent 70% of the agricultural workers in the Indian agriculture in the country. Their ownership, if you talk about it, less. Land ownership could be only around 11%. They are involved in the process of agriculture, right from sowing the seeds, to transplanting, to weeding, to harvesting, to the post-harvesting stage. Today, on his birthday celebration, I think we have to reflect upon them also. Are we in the right direction? In the hills of Arunachal, when we say take a U-turn, it doesn't mean that we are going back. It means that we are going up. We spiral up to reach the top. So at times we need to take U-turn, if at all we need to take. Country is in great progress. We just heard our Prime Minister today in the morning. He spoke clearly and crystal clear he was. He felt for the farmers of the country. He felt for the women folks of the country. We heard the Agriculture Minister. Arunachal, if I can talk of, I was just listening to the member of NITI Aayog. Yes, we have become the largest producer of TV in the country. We are second largest producer of cardamom, black cardamom. We are going in a pace. But let me tell you and give you the stats. Arunachal, altogether, did a study and we found out the total Arunachal land, WRC, which is fit for cultivation, could be around only 7%, which is 7 lakhs hectares. And for the horticulture, 18 lakh hectare, 25 lakh hectare. These are considered cultivable land in our state. And so far, we have been led by a dynamic Chief Minister, Sri Pema Khanduji, ably assisted by Deputy Chief Minister, Sri Chanumen. But we have reached only so far 1.05 lakh hectare of irrigation land that is being cultivated. We are not even 4%. So as a late starter, I was just listening to the minister from Tamil Nadu. They have the fortune to have such a great man in their land. We are a late starter. We just attained our statehood in 1987, right from NEFA days to the Union Territory status, now Arunachal. But I always say, Arunachal is the land that we should be looking into. Because in our culture, leadership is not a position. It is a duty. It is about listening, caring, and protecting what we inherit. The forest, the knowledge, the tradition, and future of our children. मार्गदर्शन जो हमें दिखाए हैं प्रोफेसर एम एस स्वामीनाथन जी ने, जिस तरह से उसने अपना जिंदगी की शुरुआत की, उसने मेडिसिन वोट को छोड़ के जब हमारे गांधी जी को सुना कि bread is the God in the house where people are hungry, he thought, I must devote my life to agriculture. And look, the power of one, what he has done for the country. It's amazing. And we are here. He talks about the blending of indigenous system, the knowledge, the traditional knowledge-based system, with the technology science has given to us. He talks about a perfect blending of that. We, as indigenous people, the understanding of biodiversity and biohappiness, it is not acquired. It is not at all. It is in us. We breathe it. We live it. It is in our blood. It is in our DNA. If I go a bit further, I say it is in our soul. Professor M.S. Swaminathan has seen the soul of our people, and he highlighted it. And we talk about regenerative agriculture. There was a time when people would come and tell us that your slash and burn is unscientific. But when we talk and think deeply, could it be a way forward with the best technological intervention that we could provide there? Can we do that? Can we think of that? I think all the leaders here, we have heard the Prime Minister of the country. I think leadership is about stewardship. It's about stewardship of our agroecology, of our rivers, of our knowledge system, where young people learn artificial intelligence and forest spirit in the same breath. As the world faces the twin crisis of ecological collapse and cultural homogenization, we in the Northeast, which is home to more than 220 languages, tribes, 5,000 plants and so on, we offer a different blueprint. I think, my friends, in the memory of Professor Swaminathan and under the inspiring leadership of Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, this conference calls upon us to rethink what we mean by growth, value, and happiness. Let's not build a new generation of leaders who are only STEM graduates, but also ecology storytellers, seed savers, water warriors, and peacemakers. Let us not equip our youth with degrees, but with dignity, empathy, and memory. I believe biohappiness is not a slogan. It is our collective inheritance and responsibility. Biohappiness cannot be top-bottom, not at all. It has to be the ability to blend without hurting, bring in the margin without displacement and destruction. The ability to imagine firm, micro and small without the approach of mega and macro overshadowing our existence. We know how India is going to grow. Our population is already 1.4 billion. It is going to grow till 1.6, and they say that we might stabilize our population thereafter. We have the land cultivated 140 million hectares. We have to think of new ways, and this way, Professor M.S. Swaminathan comes. He gives us a new hope. Though he's not here anymore, his legacy continues under the inspiring leadership of Dr. Swaminathan. She was in Arunachal. She saw our land. She was in love with our land. And she says that we need to do something. Swaminathan Foundation is working now. We are thinking of creating a center of biohappiness whereby it will become the first in the country as a torchbearer. And where I would say Arunachal might be tucked in the corner. Northeast might be tucked in the corner, but if you take a circumference with a radius of 1,000 kilometers, we are in the center of 10 Southeast Asian countries. My friend, we are in the right direction. We have leaders like Prof. M.S. Swaminathan, and I believe Swaminathan Foundation will continue in that direction. Before I go, I would like to quote a few lines to all the farmers, to all the policymakers, to all the scientists, to all the people who are today. हम दरिया है, हमें अपना हुनर मालूम है, हम जिस तरफ चलेंगे, हम रास्ते बना देंगे. Thank you so much. May God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toko. I now invite Professor Ademola A. Adunle, Senior Special Advisor on Agriculture Innovation, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Nigeria.
Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. I would like to say a few words in respect of awards that I received from His Excellency, the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I'm deeply honored and profoundly humbled to receive the inaugural M.S. Swaminathan Award for Food and Peace. I accept this award not just in my name, but on behalf of countless smallholders, grassroots innovators, and young scientists across the global south, whose courage, resilience, and knowledge drive the transformation of our food system. Professor Swaminathan is popularly known as father of Indian Green Revolution, and his relentless research and advocacy during Green Revolution across Asia. To be associated with the legacy of Professor M. Swaminathan, a visionary who brought science to the service of humanity, is both a privilege and a responsibility. And of course, I will not forget today, that will be with me for the rest of my life. And I work towards impacting life positively, like I've always done. For example, when I was given the task to travel across Africa by introducing the so-called controversial genetically modified organism, I engaged over 300 stakeholders across Africa, ranging from policymakers, farmers, NGOs, etc., to create obviously comprehensive framework to facilitate the adoption of GMO across Africa. One of the things that I found out that wasn't done properly was obviously to engage the farmers, because if you are bringing variety to farmers, you need to actually find out whether it's locally relevant before you can bring it to them. But I noticed that they were not properly engaged. As a result of that, they are bringing variety that are not locally adapted to the soil condition, etc. But I was able to identify that for you to bring a technology to Africa, other developing countries, you need to engage the key stakeholders, particularly farmers. And that is how the new technology can be adopted and diffused among the farmers. This recognition strengthens my commitment to building equitable, sustainable, and climate-resilient food system that leave no one behind. In a world facing growing uncertainty, let us honor Professor Swaminathan legacy by working across borders, disciplines, and generations to nourish both people and the planet. Thank you to the World Academy of Sciences, the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, and the distinguished jury. I'm deeply grateful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Professor Abinda. The last panelist is Dr. Kent Nandoji. He is separately implemented teaching on plant genetic research.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, first, I will pay my respects to the family of Prof. MS Swaminathan, who have so ably carried the torch and taken up the challenge and the legacy that he had established and left behind, and have so shown from the presence of the Prime Minister today and the distinguished ministers and scientists from all over the world that come to honor the memory of MS Swaminathan and give testimony to the impact it has made over the years. His legacy, while we felt and see the impact in India and Indian agriculture, but the legacy goes well beyond the borders of this country, goes well beyond the generations that we have today, goes well beyond the discipline of agriculture as well, because the philosophy and the principles that he laid foundation for and he has pursued throughout his life has led and guided a lot of international discussions and deliberations. While he was the independent chair of the Council of FAO, he led a lot of the innovation and decisions that is still pursued up to today. The International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture that was adopted soon after he finalized his term as independent chair is a legacy and is a testimony of that his effort, because it's the only international agreement that today embeds farmers' rights and recognizes farmers' rights as at the international level. And it is his drive and his vision and his mission as well as his efforts that ensure that happened. So as we reflect on the legacy and the impact and the vision that guided his work, that has continued to inspire and shape global discussions, let us not just pay tribute to him in words alone, but with action. You know that the only way we can pay proper tribute to the efforts and innovation as well as the progress that Prof. Swaminathan led is by taking that into action, empowering farmers, working with local communities, ensuring that government policies that are established also support farmers and agriculture. He proposed and pursued a policy that we should move away from purely extractive agriculture to regenerative agriculture. Agriculture that is integrated into the system, into the environment, into the society. And that is something that we, in our work, in pursuing and supporting contracting parties and countries, in establishing policies that recognize that reality. That is not just a matter of producing food, but we have to produce it in a more sustainable manner. And empowering farmers, especially women and indigenous communities, is part of that. So, in conclusion, let us honor him and carry forward that vision of agriculture that does not only feed the world, but agriculture that heals the world. And that is, I think, the foundation of what biohappiness is all about. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So with this, we are coming to the end of this session. I am happy to share with you that Dr. Srinivas Rao, Director INI, has been coordinating this session, and he is a very well-known climate and soil scientist, two areas which became very dear to Dr. Swaminathan as he was writing on sustainability and regulatory issues. So I invite Dr. Swaminathan to make concluding remarks and also to close the session.
Honorable Professor Ramechandji and all the panelists, it's a great moment for all of us. And Professor M.S. Swaminathan, you have spoken about the Evergreen Revolution several decades back, which encompasses not only food production, productivity and environment, nutrition and health balance. After 60 years, now we are talking and facing several challenges which Professor M.S. Swaminathan have spoken and coined at that time. The high chemical inputs, lack of biodiversity, natural resource degradation, those terms, those challenges, in fact, he indicated several decades back. Living with nature, the philosophy of the Professor Swaminathan in the direction of biohappiness. How it happens? Biohappiness, science, technology, policy, program, implementation synergy, which enable its happiness and empowering farmers with the local resources. Today, we have taken this important session, how to convert the vision, Professor M.S. Swaminathan vision into actions and ground level implementation. We have 5 policy and panelists, and one from Tamil Nadu, Arunachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, and 2 international panelists from Nigeria and also International Planetary Society.
I think most points, but I will certainly highlight the policy of Honorable Minister from Tamil Nadu, how he indicated that how Professor M.S. Swaminathan's philosophy turned into nature-friendly red rice, smallholders, biotech policy, crop diversification, intensification with local crops was highlighted by the Minister of Tamil Nadu. And also he highlighted organic farming, micro-irrigation, and environmental protection and agri-credit system empowering farmers. These are in fact, the policies which are being taken by the government of Tamil Nadu. And coming to that, Maharashtra Agriculture Minister, Vithoba Barjuji, in fact, very, very challenging state with low water, less water, but despite of that, as Professor Ramechandji sir told, that how they balance and how they are able to produce larger horticulture production with rain-fed drylands as a central point and right time of mobile-based information, technology transfer, climate resilient. Professor Swaminathan sir, this is one of the important states which has taken the climate resilient villages in such a large scale under the POCRA program by the government of Maharashtra. Sri Tikuji, MLA representing government of Arunachal Pradesh, highlighted biodiversity, small farms, gender, biohappiness models of Professor M.S. Swaminathan towards the regenerative agriculture in Arunachal Pradesh. Professor Adimoli, Minister of Agriculture, Nigeria, he indicated that taking forward Professor M.S. Swaminathan's philosophy into farmer-centric policies, climate resilient, cross-border association in for food production and sustainability indicated. The last panelist, Dr. Kent, who represents International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources, indicated the innovation and genetic resources conservation through treaties. In fact, many, many years back, Professor M.S. Swaminathan has indicated and highlighted. Thank you very much. In fact, very, very innovative ideas which have come, the philosophy of Professor M.S. Swaminathan, which have been taken to the ground level implementation with enabling policies. The session was very, very great, coming the ideas from Northeast ecosystem, Western India, typical dryland system, Southern India, and our own South-South collaboration from India to Africa. Thank you very much, and also Professor Ramechandji and for organizing these sessions very, very ably, and also putting that very, very nice background to taking up the policy implementation and Swaminathan, Professor Swaminathan sir, visions into the action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, for your kind words. We now request Sri Ramesh Chand to offer small mementos on behalf of the conference organizers to all of the dignitaries on the dais. So this contains a book, In Search of Biohappiness, and farmer-produced material which is available from the FPOs that we work with at MSSRF.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh Chand sir, for moderating the session. Heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed speakers for shedding light on the evolving challenges of agriculture and for enriching this platform with invaluable insights from your respective states. Your state-wise perspective have added depth and direction to our shared discourse. Thank you so much, and I'm sure it was a true pleasure for all of you to listen and to witness this plenary session. I announce the next event, which is a keynote lecture, and honorable chair of the session for our Dr. Madhura Swaminathan Madam, Professor, Indian Statistical Institute, Bengaluru, and Dr. Shiv Kumar Kalyanaraman, Chief Executive Officer, Anusandhan National Research Foundation. I invite the learned chair on the stage. Dr. Madhura Swaminathan Madam and Dr. Shiv Kumar Kalyanaraman sir. May we have you on the stage, please? Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And for further proceedings, I request Dr. Gayatri from MSSRF to please come over the stage. Thank you very much, and with that I hand over the stage to the chair.
To a very important session from two of the world's, I think top scientific leaders, and also women leaders, but that's second, but I think that's a doubly important session. And I have my co-chair here, Dr. Shivkumar Kalyanaraman, and I'm going to take the floor first and allow you later. So welcome to this session, and maybe I'll give a few remarks at the end because I'm waiting to hear the speakers. And I'm very honored and proud to be here to introduce Professor Lindiwe Sibanda, who is currently extraordinary professor at large or extraordinary professor. I mean, she has worn so many hats at the University of Pretoria. But I want to just mention a few things to begin with, and that is that she's a scientist, an animal scientist, and a farmer, which when I found that out, I was really surprised that she actually has cattle and a farm in Zimbabwe. She has been on many governing institutional bodies and advisory role, but I think one a very important one, and from which she has just recently stepped down, is as chair of the CGIAR Integrated Partnership Board. And I think she was chair at a very important time when the CGIAR, as this audience doesn't need to be told, the largest sort of international and I think unique network of agricultural research institutions, starting with CIMMYT and IRI, which all of us in India who know about the Green Revolution are familiar with, but there are several others. She steered it through a very important period of a new kind of partnership and led the development of the vision and the strategic plan for the next 5 years. Maybe she'll say something about it. So it's a great pleasure and honor to have you with us, Lindiwe, and the floor is yours. I'm sure I've left out a lot of honors, but I think you can look them up. I will give a warnings time when the time is up, yeah.
Don't worry. Thank you very much, my sister Madura, and greetings, special recognition for all our farmers, and particularly the women farmers in the audience. A big shout out for all of you. What a way to celebrate a birthday. It can't be any better. When life moves on, we cry. When we celebrate the anniversary of passing, we gather and mourn. But it's so beautiful to gather and launch Biohappiness. This memory will forever live with us. Dr. MS is alive because we have to be happy. Thank you for the vision of Biohappiness, and thank you for the Evergreen Revolution. I'll have to say next slide because I don't see my slides up. I was hoping through that pep talk the slides would come up. So my timing has not started.
Continue with your pep talk while the slides come.
Part of the pep talk that my sister Madura has already alluded to is my life at CGIAR, and I just wanted to say we need to keep CGIAR alive. We have to, because as you have seen, the legacy lives on, and this biohappiness layer has to sit as a foundation for better things to come. Another message that I want to bring on is another institution I'm now affiliated with. As co-chair of the Kurt Bergfors Food Planet Prize, which is $2 million every year, we are not getting enough submissions from India. And I hope by being here, we this year can award the prize to India. It's not a promise, it's a call for action. And the prize is for solutions that give to people and the planet. And I'm sure there's a lot of innovations that qualify for that. It's about innovations we want to take to scale. Please bring them forward. It's the Kate Begforce Food Planet Prize. If you Google, you can find it. The presentation still struggles to come on. Let me also talk about the Berlin assignment I'm involved with at the moment. It's the Robert Bosch Foundation Academy, whereby you go in to write about what has made a difference in life. And I feel we have a lot to talk about, the Green Revolution and what we need to do next for the next revolution. So in my chapter, we are going to have biohappiness as part of the things we have to do. Okay, all right. So I'm lucky, my time has been saved. They loaded the other presentation first, so when I come back, I'll do 15 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Shivkumar Kalyanraman. It gives me great pleasure in welcoming Professor Qureisha Abdul Karim, President of the World Academy of Sciences, TWAS, and one of the world's leading epidemiologists in the fight for HIV/AIDS. Her pioneering research has reshaped global approaches to HIV prevention, particularly for women and girls in Africa. Professor Abdul Karim is the Associate Scientific Director and the co-founder of CAPRISA, a Professor of Clinical Epidemiology at the Columbia University and Pro-Vice Chancellor for African Health at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She led the landmark CAPRISA 004 trial, the first to show that the antiretroviral gel could prevent HIV in women, a breakthrough for the world indeed. Her extraordinary impact on global health has earned her many prestigious honors. I will not go through all of them. In 2025, she was elected the Fellow of the Royal Society, one of the highest recognition in science. Please welcome Professor Qureisha Abdul Karim.
Thank you very much, Chair, for that very warm introduction. Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends and family members of the Swaminathan family and colleagues, it's a real honor and privilege to be part of this extraordinary celebration of an iconic individual who had an impact not only in India but also globally. And the World Academy of Sciences is very honored and privileged to be part and partner in this particular celebration today, and we hope it's the beginning of many celebrations to come this year and for many more. So I think I'm supposed to say next slide, please. I was a bit worried that I was going to be the person between you and lunch. So Lindiwe, I'm happy you're going to be that person. In the time allocated to me, I wanted to spend a few minutes to celebrating the life of Prof. Swaminathan. I wanted to talk a little bit about partnerships and collaborations and why these are important, and then reflect on just over 3 decades of an amazing South-South collaboration between India and the World Academy of Sciences, and how these partnerships and collaborations not only capture the importance of science excellence, innovation, but what impactful research looks like when it benefits all of humanity. May I have the next slide, please? So I think we've heard a lot about Professor Swaminathan, and I think we've celebrated multiple times today the life of the father of India's Green Revolution. But he was also a global icon, and within the United Nations system, he's also regarded as the father of economic ecology. And not only was he a visionary agricultural scientist, but he was also a visionary scientist. He appreciated the importance of science and the value of science for the betterment of humanity. We've heard about his contributions to enhancing wheat and rice yield, but also how he took India from the brink of a famine to one where India is now one of the top producers and exporters of several food products. But importantly, he not only epitomized the science excellence and innovation, but he did it very much guided and informed by serving the most vulnerable in society. He was very pro-poor, pro-woman, and working very closely with small farmers. Now, I go to a lot of meetings, and this is a very unusual meeting where I am actually getting to interact with communities that directly benefit from science. And I think when we think about knowledge generation, that knowledge generation can't merely be products we produce and then present to society. I think these days it's so important that we work together very closely with potential beneficiaries in the design, in the knowledge production, so that when we are successful in our attempts to produce new things to benefit us, then be part of that journey, and we can be very much more amenable to adoption of those. Now we know he was the inaugural World Food Prize winner, and for those who may not be so familiar with it, this is regarded as the Nobel Prize in agricultural science. So, yes, very commendable award, and really set a very high bar, I think, for subsequent winners. But I wanted to also flag two other characteristics of Prof. Swaminathan. As I said, and I think most of us in the room appreciate him not just being narrowly focused on agricultural science, but that he played a very important role in placing science at the center of societal transformation, particularly in the global south. So 40 years ago, when Nobel laureate Professor Abdus Salam had this vision to set up a World Academy of Science, out of concern that the North industrialized countries are benefiting from science, many countries in the global South were not recognizing science, we're not recognizing scientists, and there were just a handful of science academies. So this was a very bold vision, and one of the founding members, of the 37 founding members of TWAS, Professor Swaminathan was one of them. So he really put his money where his mouth is, where he believed in things, and this initiative was met with a lot of skepticism. Even today, there's some skepticism about the world. Then it was called the Third World Academy of Science, and we really appreciate the 40 years that we have reached, the 40-year anniversary of TWAS, but it would not have been possible if it was not for a founding member such as Professor Swaminathan, who believed in this and who went out of the way to actually make this happen. And then today you saw Professor Adimola as the inaugural recipient of the TWAS Swaminathan Foundation Award in Food and Peace. And this is also very important in that food itself cannot be separated from peace, and no other time in the world are we reminded that we need peace more than ever, and how science can contribute to bringing peace and fostering peace and continued progress. Reminder, we just have one world, one people, and that we have to do the science that brings us together rather than divides. And while there may be many challenges that face us, the fact that we are here today, we commit to that call, which is, how do we use science for the betterment of humanity? How do we use that science so that everyone, everywhere benefits from it? And that, to me, is an important continuation of a very important legacy that Professor Swaminathan created. May I have the next slide, please? So now, and the next slide. So why do we need partnerships and collaborations? Before I go into that, the next slide, please. There are some really important pieces. We're stuck there, but I'll continue while the next slide comes up. Partnerships and collaborations are very important. And we've seen over the years many different types of partnerships and collaborations. But I want to talk about effective partnerships and collaborations. And when we talk about effective partnerships and collaborations, we're not talking about extractive practices, whether that's within countries or whether that's between countries. What we're talking about is science that is based on mutual respect and trust. And a very important trait, I'm still waiting for the next slide, is that each partner brings something to the table. And it's because of the coming together. It's not just about two people coming together, but two groups, two individuals, two institutions come together to ensure that we actually have synergy. That means we do better than if we are alone. And in some instances, in partnerships and collaborations, these relationships may not start off equal. But what's important is that we work towards equity, and we do that by identifying what are the weaknesses, what are the limitations, and through commitment to training, capacity building, to skills transfer, knowledge transfer, we get to that point. And also, I think what's important is, why are you here together? What is your shared vision? And in that shared vision, what is it that enables you to achieve more? And right now, as we are gathered, we are dealing with many, many complex problems. And these complex or wicked challenges that face us are not solved easily just by, a particular subject discipline team coming together, but we have to move beyond multidisciplinary teams, interdisciplinary science, to a type of science that we've not yet seen that will enable us to tackle these very complex challenges that are facing us. And may I have the next slide, please? Okay. So we know that part of why we need these partnerships and collaborations and cooperation is about improving research quality, it's about sharing resources, and it's about innovating solutions. But also these collaborations and partnerships, they help us enhance responses that benefit populations across borders. And more recently, during COVID, we were reminded of our shared vulnerability and our interconnectedness, and we saw how, by working together as a global community, at least to a point, we're able to deal with that. But a lot of infectious diseases, for example, which impacts plants, animals, and human beings, start with outbreaks. And the importance of having good data and surveillance systems means that if we can manage outbreaks, we prevent them from becoming epidemics, and we prevent epidemics from becoming pandemics. But all of those partnerships are about global security, it's about stability, but it also, what we've seen is how science also has economic and enables economic and technological growth. And at the end of the day, it's about sustainability and resilience and how we ensure planetary health and human security. May I have the next slide, please? So we also know in this era, we're facing many challenges. We're seeing the convergence of things like food security or insecurity. We're looking at the impact of climate change on our lives. We're looking at convergence of the disruptions that we're seeing from wars and conflicts and people on the move. And we're also seeing new and re-emerging epidemics and pandemics in all living creatures. We're seeing many, many threats that face us. And here is really an opportunity for us to look at how do we work together And also, when we think about partnerships and collaborations, it's very rarely that we have one-size-fits-all solutions. And so this is possibly where partnerships and collaborations around a common challenge and problem helps us either regionally or between countries to work together to find solutions to local challenges, and where the sharing and cooperation can make a big difference. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, so I wanted to move on to looking at how we could potentially use one common piece that all member states have committed to, namely the Sustainable Development Goals and achieving those in 2030. And I want to use the, do I have extra time for the delay in the slides coming up? And we have this partnership between India and the World Academy of Sciences. And I wanted to, in the last few minutes, just reflect on that 3 decades partnership to see what we've been able to accomplish that enables us to think about partnerships and collaborations, not just in abstract terms, but in terms of metrics and in terms of outputs that we have. And may I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. And I thought what I'd do is just do a very quick cover of key milestones and timelines in this partnership between TWAS and India in terms of building capacity and ensuring that the knowledge being generated can lead to transformation, not just in India, but more broadly in the global south. And we go back to 1984 to the establishment of TWAS, and Professor Swaminathan as the founding member. Within a few years, the TWAS CSIR fellowship program was established, and then we had, within a few years, Professor C.N.R. Rao, another very famous Indian scientist, who was the first Indian president of TWAS. TWAS General Assemblies have been hosted in India twice, once in New Delhi in 2002, and then again around 2013-14. We also saw around 2004 the launch of the DBT TWAS Fellowship Program, and then we have the C.N.R. Rao Prize within TWAS to honor and recognize scientific research that meets these high standards of excellence, innovation, and in service to humanity. One of the important meetings that we had around 2019 was the first conclave of fellows who've been trained through these various programs. And that conclave really captured capacity building and training is not just about the degrees, it's not just about the PhDs, it's not about the postdocs, it's not just about mentorship, but it was about the lifelong networks and collaborations that withstood time. And importantly, it also showed how India benefited from that networking, mentorship, and collaboration, but also how the countries where participants came in for the training to India were able to take that knowledge back to their countries, and how they were able to change it, the different roles they were playing in terms of leadership, in terms of strengthening academic institutions, but also in terms of generating knowledge that was important for local solutions. And then just to say that as we celebrate this moment, we're also celebrating 3 decades of that partnership and 40 years since the establishment of the World Academy of Sciences. May I have the next slide, please? And you can see from these very humble beginnings of this program how this partnership has evolved into a comprehensive one that has many opportunities across multiple subject categories, that we have 607 fellowships awarded. But I think what I want to say is beyond the publications, beyond the degrees, is really the people and the human stories behind this. And to me, that's what humanity is about. It's about how we come together, how do we work together, how do we generate knowledge, how do we not compromise on excellence, how do we keep moving forward. And today, more than ever, we appreciate the centrality of science and the importance of science to enable us to move forward and keep moving forward. And our countries in the global south are in various stages of evolution and development. And within our countries, we know we have communities that have yet to see the first industrial revolution, let alone experience and benefit from the fourth or even upcoming revolutions. I also wanted to highlight in this process a very important and supportive role played by India in hosting the regional office, and that's in Bangalore with the Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, and we truly value that critical role being played within the region to provide that support. May I have the next slide, please? So we can see from this impact how we've changed things. We've seen how India's scientific capabilities and institutional strengths were leveraged to benefit many countries in the global south. We've also seen the multiplier effect of the investment in one person, and when they return, other students that they train, the institutions they build, the centers they build, and all of those help in terms of a single investment in a single person playing out in so many ways, not just in terms of academia, but also in how communities, and particularly vulnerable communities, benefit. And I think there's significant non-monetary values, but I know sometimes that people also want to see where's that economic benefit, where's the return of investment, and I have a few slides that we'll come to that show some of those. But it really is a brilliant example of capturing what is possible when we come together with common purpose and with a commitment over time that grows, that evolves, that expands, and you can see how that not only benefits the host institution, but also the countries that trainees return to. May I have the next slide, please? So this is just to give you some idea of in terms of numbers, if you needed to see that, is how many PhD fellowships, how many postdoc fellowships. But I wanted to focus really on that last column to show how that initial partnership with CSIR focused on South Asia, on Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America. And you can see in those investments how the landscape, how the science ecosystem has changed. But the next, as we moved on to the Department of Biotechnology, in partnership with the Ministry of Science and Technology, and I'm so happy that Prof. Renu is here because this was really her brainchild, and we really tapped into that biotech advantage and skill sets and knowledge to really do that transfers, to expose people from other countries. And then we've seen again during COVID how that investment really stood on its own, and I saw Bharat Biotech as one of the sponsors for this event, producing India's COVID vaccine, and not just the generic manufacture, but also we're seeing increasingly innovation in India's biotech space. And we're seeing that transfer in different regions of the world, enabling that self-sufficiency to come. And then more recently, with the SN Bose Center for Basic Sciences, we're now drilling into more theoretical and basic sciences and trying to amplify the skill set in the global south in that regard. May I have the next slide, please? Now, I just put this slide, and I'm not sure how visible it is to everyone, but you know, with TWAS, we not just have programs to build capacity and training and create opportunities, but the TWAS fellows are really the brains trust for the global south. And we have just over 1,500 fellows to date, and 244 fellows come from India. I'm always having other countries complaining. There's too many fellows in China, there's too many fellows in India, there's too many fellows in Brazil. But I think it's a reflection of government and country investments in science and technology that you see that benefiting these countries. You see that in the recognition with top scientists. And this is really, to be a TWAS fellow means you've gone beyond National Science Academy, beyond your regional science academy. And this is really the cream of the crop. And to have 244 TWAS fellows across 10 subject categories is really an amazing accomplishment. May I have the next slide, please? And then the other part I wanted to highlight is awards. And these are awards recognizing excellence. In TWAS, the equivalent of the third world or developing country Nobel Prize is the TWAS Lenovo or the TWAS Illy Trieste Science Prize. And in the sort of 14, 15 years of its existence, we have 2 Indian scientists who've been recognized with this, again talking to the level of scientific excellence and innovation that is being generated here. And then by subject category, we have several Indian scientists who have achieved this excellence recognition. It's, if you don't appreciate it, these awards for mathematics, chemistry, and physics is for young scientists. And usually to be a TWAS fellow, you would have had spent 20, 30 years doing research. And these are young people who are doing game-changing science, and this is the accelerated pathway to become a TWAS fellow. So that's just giving you, again, some recognition, some acknowledgement, and some attention to this. May I have the next slide, please? So in terms of the economic impact, we estimate that we've invested about $15 million through this training program between TWAS and the Indian government. And I can tell you that the return on investment in a very conservative manner tells us we have at least more than 3-to-1 return. So for those of you who want to invest more in science and technology and innovation, this is a super good investment and good return on investment in terms of outputs, in terms of social transformation, and really moving us all forward so that we can all benefit from new knowledge being generated. May I have the next slide, please? May I have the next slide, please? I'm going to just touch on a few things that why this has been successful is that the values and objectives have been shared. We have a commitment to excellence and innovation and impactful science. This has constantly been reviewed, so there's ongoing continuous review, the strong support from government and the scientific community. There's been a lot of flexibility depending on what the needs have been, opportunities have changed. But we also have many important challenges that face both TWAS and the Indian scientific community, and these relate to gender. It's around this rapidly changing world and uncertain times that we live in, but it's also about how do we enhance science communication. And I think in an era of mis and disinformation, we have to ensure that we as scientists are not in our ivory towers, but the science, the knowledge that we're generating to benefit humanity is actually becoming part of everyday life. And I see we have several science communicators in the audience, but that's going to be really important if science is going to be our hope, if science is going to be our solution for the future. May I have the next slide, please? And I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I just wanted to flag a few opportunities. And I think we've seen how the digital technologies offer, and one of India's strengths is really an opportunity to leapfrog us across the globe. And I think, again, like the science, the dissonance that we have between countries and regions in terms of capacity and capability, I do believe that the artificial intelligence, the issues around climate science, around biotechnology and sustainable development are areas that we can continue to work on. But I think it's about creating innovative ecosystems that can withstand and be resilient against challenges that are facing us. May I have the next slide, please? You can probably read this faster than I'm having the slide change. So I'm going to about wrap up here. And may I have the next slide, please? And the next slide. In the slide before this, I just wanted to say there are 3 partner organizations that we can include in this. One is the Inter-Academy Partnership. The second is, and in the Inter-Academy Partnership, there's a lot we can work between science academies, but there's also a young physicians training, leadership training program, and other opportunities. I wanted to talk about the Organization for Women in Science for Sustainable Development, and that's a key structure for supporting women scientists. About 2 years ago, I was here for the launch of Swati Portal, and I think that Swati Portal is a really important portal for us tackling, understanding better where the barriers are for women advancing, but also coming up with solutions in addressing gender equity issues. Somebody did a calculation the other day and said, it's going to take us a century before we see gender parity. In TWAS, at the governing council level, we have 50% men, 50% women. We have good regional balance. But I think once we get below that, and in particular subject categories, we see wide divides. I'm 65, and I want in my lifetime to see gender parity being accomplished, because the challenges that face us, it's a luxury to leave half the world out of finding solutions and contributing to those solutions. And then we have a lot of young people. India has youth as its dominant demographic. Africa has youth, 65% of the population under 35. And youth are our present and the future. And the TWAS Young Affiliates Network is another a network of alumni who can come together and by synergistically working to find common problems, coming together, putting the brains together, and really helping our countries to really shine and emulate, particularly Africa, emulating some of the successes that we're seeing in India and China. Next slide, please. And the next slide. I just wanted to close with this quote from Professor Abdul Salam, the founding president of the Third World Academy of Science, which is that scientific knowledge is the common and shared heritage of all mankind. East and West, South and North have all equally participated in its creation in the past, and we hope they will in the future. This joint endeavor in sciences remains one of the unifying forces among the people of this globe. So I want to leave that with you because that resonates with the values, with the vision, and the goals of Professor Swaminathan. I think that group of 37 visionaries coming together and really imagining a world where science can transform and really enable us to reach our full potential. That remains a goal. We're seeing patchy success stories. We've got to make this everybody's success story, and we've got to make sure everyone, everywhere, benefits from the advantages that come with the new knowledge we're generating. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Qureshi. I hand it over to my co-chair.
Without further ado, we have the second appearance of Professor Lindiwe Sibanda.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Straight to the subject. Slides, please. I've learned if you start speaking before the slides come up, you have to create stories. My job is easy. When you give a keynote lecture, The job is to inspire subsequent speakers to debate and to think. So my job is just to deviate a bit from the theme for this conference, and that's why I've chosen a theme of From Green to an Evergreen Revolution, Creating Shared Value and Cultivating Biohappiness through Sustainable Food Systems. The key words from there for me are a revolution. Secondly, it's an evergreen revolution. Third, we need to create shared value for this revolution to happen. But most important, we should culminate with biohappiness. I will unpack those 4 chapters and then end up with a call to action. Next slide, please. Some of you are doubting if I'm a real farmer. I want to shout out to Himanshu Patak, who earlier this year visited Zimbabwe, and I was able to prove that I'm a farmer. So yes, that picture is taken from my own farm, and thank you to the eResearch team that had their board meeting in Zimbabwe. And I've spoken to the other hats that I'm wearing. Let's move to the next slide. That's the highlight. I have given the chapters. Next slide, please. What is a revolution? Next slide. I went back to the basics because we've taken a lot of things for granted. When we talk revolution, a lot of things come to our mind. But in this case, we want to zero in on understanding what earns the name a revolution. Next slide. There are different types that we've experienced in our lifetime. The political revolutions, we can all name many, and my continent in Africa has become the museum, particularly in the last 2 years, of coup d'etats. That's not the revolution we want, but we need government to drive our revolutions in agriculture. Second one, technological, and in that one, we are in an era of digital and industrial revolution. When we grew up, it was like a scary monster that will consume us, but we are the generation that is living it now. We are in AI. We are in the 4th industrial revolution and progressing more. So these revolutions are continuously evolving, and we are the drivers. The next one is the agricultural one. When you ask people in Africa, what agricultural revolution have you heard? I spoke to a colleague this morning who said, how is the Africa Green Revolution? And the answer was, we haven't had one. We're still waiting for it. So let's make these revolutions happen, and I'll unpack what the African revolution should look like later. Then there are the social and cultural revolutions. But what I want to put across as I motivate you is that the uniqueness of an agricultural revolution is that it combines all these 4 other ones. It is political, it is technological, it is social and cultural. That's what makes agricultural revolutions complicated, difficult to drive, and they require shared value. All hands on deck. It's not just one man in a gun going to take over a country. It's everybody holding the security gun to make sure tummies are fed, bodies are nourished, and the earth is nourished as well. That's why we shout out to the 100 years of our pioneer, Dr. MS Swaminathan, who spearheaded one of the biggest revolutions in the world in our space in agriculture. Next slide, please. So I've just highlighted that this evergreen revolution will require all those clouds around. Which one is yours, and which one are you going to champion? And my appeal today is wherever we are, we will have to pull on all those fronts for this evergreen revolution to happen. Next slide, please. Now, what is the evergreen revolution? I've moved on to chapter 2. Unless we know it, unless we smell it, until we envision it, it will remain a dream. We fought the Green Revolution of increasing yield. In 2021, we moved to sustainable food systems, and that was the best thing that happened, because agriculture was always seen as for poor people, for farmers. But the fact that we brought in food into the narrative, and the fact that we brought in sustainability, thanks to the UN Summit on Sustainable Food Systems 2021, which was held alongside the UN General Assembly. Food, agriculture, sustainable food systems was in the mouths of every politician, of every consumer, from farm to the table. This has become the bedrock for everything that we do. It's the whole value chain. But the main thing that we had little spoken about was the E in sustainability. Economics, farm for money, we were clear about. Social, you have to have the social component. But the ecological practices were left behind. And thanks to Dr. MS, we are bringing them forcefully now onto the table. The issue of equity and inclusion. Who should drive this? Should women be left behind? Should youth, who are our present and our future, where do we locate them? Technology, it's not AI for other things, it's AI for agriculture and sustainable food systems. But most important, it's not an agriculture or an evergreen revolution for yield, it's one for nourishing the bodies and the planet, and in a climate smart way. Next slide, please. Now, I thought I would digress a bit and take you to my world in 2013, where I was dreaming in Africa. And as I was preparing for this lecture, I remembered the lecture that's published in the Solutions Journal of a rainbow revolution that I gave to the African Revolution. At the time, I was joining AGRA, the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. And the first question I asked was, what will be unique about the African Revolution? In my head, I was very clear because I had grown up on a 1-hectare farm when my grandmother could feed 20 of her grandchildren with just a 1-hectare plot. This is because there was no monoculture. We had the millets, we had the pulses, we had the sweet potatoes, we had goats, we had free-ranging chickens, and we had a dairy cow. All that was to nourish not just the family, but the soil. So she cared for all that. And the African Revolution, Green Revolution, I was sure would not be the same as the Green Revolution. And that really takes me close to where Dr. MS was, the Evergreen Revolution. Next slide, please. As I was doing that, I discovered somebody I did not know at the time in 2018 had published a paper on La Révolution arc-en-ciel. He was dreaming from France, Patrick Caron, and he called it in French, Révolution arc-en-ciel, which is the equivalent of a green revolution. He went on to say it will have 54 colors. It will have local cultures and local ecologies. It will be adapted to local needs. But one thing we had in common between Caron and myself was that it will be fostering diversity, inclusion, and stakeholder participation. Next slide. Now, why do we need to create shared value? Next slide. This is a term I have fallen in love with. I was privileged to work, and I still work through one of the boards I serve, with Professor Mark Kramer, who in the Business Review of Harvard Institute, where he was a lecturer, came up with the term of CVS. If you Google it, you'll get more for those who have not come across it. It's about how do we bring convergence to an issue that requires multiple stakeholders and not call each other names, but find a stake and reason for engagement. I want to believe if we do not create shared value in the Evergreen Revolution and our journey to biohappiness, it will remain a lame duck. Now, what does creating shared value bring to us? It's really bringing one missing stakeholder, private sector. It's bringing business, which takes things to scale. Government takes things to scale by creating horizontal, conducive policy environment. Business takes technologies to scale by being a multiplier. But you cannot have extractive partnerships, as my colleague has just highlighted. It's got to be win-win for all stakeholders. How do we create shared value into the evergreen agricultural revolution so that we achieve biohappiness? Next slide, please. As we do that, we need to be clear. Align business with public goods, mobilize private capital into our business of Evergreen Revolution, build resilient and adaptive value chains, because we have the opportunity from farm to table. It's no longer just about the farm, it's the whole value chain. And we need to bring trust and collaboration. Next slide. I've amplified the opportunities we have in that cycle. Most of the time, we remain at farm level. Let's unpack the opportunities for driving this new revolution. To bring happiness, biohappiness, is not only at the farm, it will be in all those stations that I've highlighted there. Next slide. The pathways to our biohappiness in the Evergreen Revolution will require public-private rural infrastructure development, digital transparency, all the things we have talked about in the past and have not actualized. I am happy as we celebrate India's successes that we are talking about launching this biohappiness drive in the right country. Next, please. Now, last chapter, biohappiness. What does it mean? Well, I couldn't help going back to what is the World's Happiness Index, where I discovered it is sitting on 6 pillars. It talks about the GDP per country, the social support, life expectancy, freedom of choice, generosity, perception of corruption. If you look at those pillars, ask yourself, where would India be sitting and where does my country, Zimbabwe, sit? Next slide, please. Lo and behold, it's the Nordic countries that are happiest. Really? I am a happy African and I'm proud to be Zimbabwean. And you tell me that I should be in Finland for me to be happy. India is sitting at 118, Zimbabwe at 147 at 143 out of 147. Surely this is not the measure we want, because one thing I know for sure, no country has progressed without investing in agriculture. So can we bring back, revise that happiness index and tell them about the biohappiness index? Because that's what the world needs for a time such as now. Next slide. So, my definition of biohappiness: good nutrition, environmental health, purposeful living, and social cohesion. I have not seen people as connected as the people from the South. We love our families. We have these big weddings. I was privileged to attend one in India in December. I know very well what it means to go to an Indian wedding. So what this means is we are connected. We create happiness. We create happiness from green, and we are not exclusive. It's something we can give to the world. So let's remind the world where happiness should come from. Next slide. Biohappiness is not about GDP. It is about our social bonds. It's about trust, fairness, community well-being, culture, and the meals we celebrate together, and keeping our environment green. Next slide. Let me just share with you how I grew up and how we were happy in the fields. There is a culture of Ilima or Nimbe in Shona, where every household during an agriculture season has an opportunity for hosting a gathering. All your neighbors bring their hand hose to come and help you, whether it's harvesting or planting. And all you have to do is to provide food and drink, and we dance as we do the work. This is what the definition of biohappiness is at local level. Every country will have to define culturally how they can bring Evergreen Revolution and biohappiness to life and re-celebrate these cultural events which have been pushed beside as being backward and not necessary. Let's bring them back. Finally, call to action. Next slide. What's my call to action? The future of happiness depends on the future of farming and sustainable food systems. Evergreen leads to biohappiness, and we should shout this out. We should mobilize people to understand what it means and for them to own it. We cannot win this revolution alone. Next and last slide. The pathway to biohappiness is through an evergreen revolution. So let us think, let us debate, and let us inspire the whole world to own this biohappiness pillar that we are launching. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindiwe. And in closing, I would just like to request a few words from my co-chair, Dr. Shivakumar.
Thank you, Madhura. Wonderful session, and I learned a lot. I'm not from this domain, but it's, I've learned multiple things in the talks, clearly about TIBAs, the partnerships, and also the contributions of, several individuals over the last few decades, and the importance of South-South partnerships. And the partnerships was the key call to action that I heard from the first keynote. And the second keynote, clearly Evergreen leads to biohappiness. That was the key call to action, and I look forward to working with the Swaminathan Foundation as well as to carry forward the legacy of the great MS Swaminathan.
Thank you. I'm not going to summarize our two excellent speakers who have actually, I think, laid out some of the issues and principles that we should be discussing over the next 2 days. But I would just like to say one thing I think that is very important when you think of biohappiness, and I think food and peace. I think you can't have happiness if there is war. So I think this is something that has emerged, from this morning. And I think something that Professor Swaminathan said is that, the fact that India had food sovereignty actually allowed India to take a place in the world in terms of not being afraid or not being standing on its own and having that national sovereignty, which is on a bigger scale, but which comes from food. So I think I would just like to add my call for action, though I wasn't asked for one, which is I think that, food is a way to peace, and food should not be a tool of war anywhere in this world. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy your lunch.
I request the session coordinator to give a small memento to the chair and the speakers. The bag will have a tribute book to Professor and the products from the farmer producer companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We deeply appreciate the wisdom shared by our honored chair and speakers. So thank you all for joining us. We'll break for lunch here. There are 2 dining halls, one at the basement of this hall and another is at AP Shinde Hall. You may kindly join either of them. If you find rush in the main hall, you may please proceed towards AP Shin.